Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more slug testing, and today we've got a very interesting combo to try out. I've definitely wanted to dive a little more into testing this particular shotgun with slugs to see what kind of accuracy results and stuff we can get out of it with a variety of different loadings, and I think there's a potential for us to see some pretty nice results in today's test as well, so we'll see what we can get. But for the shells I've got today, I brought out some more 410 slugs. These ones are some Winchester Super X 3-inch quarter-ounce rifle slugs at about 1800 feet per second. We haven't done much when it comes to testing 410 slugs, little bit here or there, but nothing over the top when it comes to rifled slugs in particular. We have tested some Brennecke slugs pretty in depth a little while back on the channel, so now it's time to see what your more standard rifled slugs can actually do as well. As for the setup we're running them through, I brought out my Mossberg 500 410. This is technically the turkey model, but there's nothing special with the actual bore at all. It just means it's camouflage and has changeable chokes, which we have an improved cylinder in the gun today. That's what the vast majority of slugs, especially rifled slugs, recommend, and that's what we're going with. And I've got a basic Simmons Pro Target red dot up on top. It is a 24-inch barrel, so we should be seeing decent velocities, at least in the ballpark of that 1800 claim, I would guess. So we'll see what this combo can give us. Now, as for our test today, since these are a 410 slug, they're a little more unique than something like a 12 gauge or 20 gauge load would be, that everybody's seen what it can do before. So we're going to do a couple things. We're going to test for accuracy at 25 yards and 50 yards, since that's about the realistic usable range for these, especially if you're going to use them for deer hunting, which we'll talk more about that here in a minute. And I figured, since I've got a bunch of water jugs out here on the range, we'll line a few of them up and take a shot into some water, and we'll see what happens as far as energy dump and penetration capability goes, and if these slugs actually come apart on impact or not. So with today's test, we should get a really good idea on if these are capable for a deer hunt, and if you should or shouldn't use them for a deer hunt scenario. Because in my experience, and in a lot of other people's experience, most rifled 410 slugs will come apart on impact, at least at closer ranges. And I just wouldn't trust it personally to get enough reliable penetration for me to want to take it out deer hunting. Brenneckes are kind of the way to go with that number. So enough rambling. We'll get you guys a view of this 25 yard and 50 yard target. We'll shoot a group at each distance. I do have the chrono out here as well, although my chrono camera battery died this morning, but I will still show the velocities and stuff so we can get all of our info there. And then we'll swing over here to some jugs and shoot them and see what they can do for penetration. So let's take some shots and see how these 3-inch quarter-ounce Super X 410 slugs can actually perform. Okay, so we'll run through our velocities real quick before we look at our target results. The boss claim is 1800. We have a 24-inch barrel, so I figured we would be kind of close, but I actually think we were averaging in the upper 1800s. But we had 1896, 1884, 1798, 1907, 1911, and 1928 for an average at 1887. So it looks like we are a decent bit above their boss claim for a velocity. A little bit surprising, but I know that the Winchester 410 slugs are usually loaded pretty hot for a 410 load anyway. But here are your muzzle energies for a quarter-ounce slug, which is about 109 grains. Obviously, it's not anything over the top spectacular, but it would be enough, and it's definitely in the typical range for a 410 slug at that velocity. So let's swing around and look at our target, because I think we were rather disappointed over there. Alright, well, here's our target, and I gotta say, I am not at all impressed. I thought for sure these would be way better than that. Obviously, they are not the slug that I'm zeroed with that red dot, which is why they hit differently than the Brennecke loads I am zeroed with. But at 25 yards, we had these two bullet holes right here, and I have absolutely no idea where the third one hit. We did have two little gas seal pieces hit down here at the bottom. That's what these two holes are, but these are the two actual slug holes. The third one, I guess, hit off the bottom of the target or something. I have absolutely no idea because we've only got 2 of them on the paper. And it's pretty much the same story with the 50-yard group. We had this guy here and that guy way over here as well. Mind you, I was aiming here for the 25-yard and I moved it up to here for the 50-yard just in case we had any bullet drop, and we were already hitting low. So the idea was to keep them all on this target, but at 50 yards, we're jumping all over the place. We had 2 hit the entire paper and 1 that mysteriously just went way off the side somewhere, I guess. And I apologize for the blinking. We had 1.77 inches for the first 2 that we had right there. Obviously, it's more than that wherever the third one went. And I had to get the tape measure out for the other 2, but from that guy all the way up to that guy is right at about 12 inches worth of spread at 50 yards. Not at all what I want to see, that's for sure. And it's probably more than that because we don't even have one that hit the paper. So needless to say, that is not what I was hoping to see, and I would not use that for any kind of hunting situation, that's for sure. I know everything with the shotgun is perfectly fine. That red dot's fine, the rail is fine, the choke is tight, the barrel's tight, nothing's out of the ordinary there. I know that shotgun can group nice groups with the Brennecke loads in my testing with it, so these are just kind of all over the place, it would seem. So not great for the 3-inch quarter-ounce loads, that's for sure. Maybe we should try some of the Super X 2.5-inch loads. Maybe those would be a little bit better. So I guess now we'll head down to some water jugs and at least put a round into them and see what happens. Obviously, with this kind of accuracy and not hitting where my dot actually is, we're gonna have to run it pretty close. Okay, so now I've got 6 1-gallon water jugs lined up behind me here. That should be more than enough to catch this. If it does what I think it's going to do, we might get into the second jug, but we'll see. I have this one oddball one set up as the third jug. If we get into that, then I'll be surprised because 3 jugs is kind of about the minimum that I want to see when it comes to water for penetration if I was going to hunt with these loads. Now, is water a perfect representation for a tissue substance? No, it's not, but it's a consistent medium and it'll give us a decent idea on what these can do anyway. And we'll see if that slug actually comes apart pretty much immediately, like I have a feeling it's going to. For distance, you guys saw how accurate these were, and they're not hitting where I'm zeroed. So I'm going to be about 10 yards or so back. It's closer than what I wanted to run this test with, but if I'm going to get something as close to center in these jugs as I can, that's just going to have to kind of be what it is, and we'll see what happens. So I'm going to step back here, we'll take our shot, and see what happens with these water jugs. Okay, so for velocity on that one, we had 1794. So now we can calculate some energy based on that number. And that muzzle energy ended up being 779 foot-pounds for that particular shot. And as for our jugs over here, I think it kind of did what I thought it would. We definitely had our first jug pretty much destroyed down here, and it does look like we had a pretty centered up hit over there on that side. So that is pretty good energy dump immediately. We definitely entered our second jug, favoring a touch to the right, and it kind of looks like we might have gone out the back, but we did not because our slug is sitting in the bottom of that jug there. And as you can see, there's absolutely nothing on jug number 3 and beyond. So everything is within pretty much 1 jug and just into the second jug. And if I pour out our slug here so we can see it, there it is. And it kind of sounds like we might have a little piece down in here as well. Yeah, maybe just a couple of those tiny little flakes. But there's the main majority of our slug with a little fiber piece that was sitting under it. And over here on the other side, we did have the little gas seal piece under the slug as well. But there it is. It flattened out and turned into a little bit of a string. Now that's not quite as much fragmentation as what I thought it would be. Usually they just break into about 5 or 6 tiny little chunks and that's what you get. So that's probably why we made it into the second jug. But this is a reason why I don't deer hunt with these rifled slugs when it comes to 410. That's about the best I've seen them do right there. 2 jugs worth of penetration. Is it enough? Yeah, it would kill a deer for sure if you hit them in the right spot and got enough penetration. But I just wouldn't trust it. Maybe at a little longer ranges, 30 yards or more, they might hold together a little better because they're at a little lower velocity. But if you hit anything hard like a rib or the edge of a shoulder bone or something, that's probably still what's going to happen is this right here. But we'll take this stuff into the bench and get you some measurements and weight and stuff. And we're in here at the bench now. You can get a nice close-up look on what this piece actually looks like. I think it's probably going to wind up being about half of the slug overall. If we flip it over here to what would be the underside of it, you can see what's left of the hollow point cavity from the back side, as well as just the edges where it kind of smashed out into a petal shape there. Kind of see a little bit of the rifling on it, but there's not much left here. These are supposed to be 1/4 ounce, which is 109 grains or so. If we weigh it out, we get 54.4. So we pretty much cut it in half there. That's half of the slug. And this is what they're supposed to look like. I just cut this one out of one of the shells. Definitely a very tiny little slug compared to something like a 12 gauge. But you can see the hollow cavity in the back. That's really a big reason why these smash out the way they do and come apart. They're almost all the way hollow, except just the rounded nose of them is solid. So at that velocity, this lightweight little bit of lead smacking into something hard is gonna make it come apart. But if we put this whole slug on there for reference, we got 111.8, so actually a little bit over 1/4 ounce. But we obviously cut the weight in half here between these two pieces, that's for sure. Between what we got and the slug we actually cut out of a shell. But for measurements, the widest part of that is right at 0.783. So it opened up pretty good compared to the unfired slug at 0.389. So it's actually a little bit undersized as well, since 410 is supposed to be 0.410. So that's definitely pretty interesting to see. And that might be part of the reason why we didn't see quite as good accuracy either. If that slug is undersized, maybe it might take a little more choke to actually squeeze that down a little bit better and not just send a slug down the bore with pretty much no contact or bouncing around. Alright y'all, well, what did you think about these results right here? I think it did about what I expected it to as far as the penetration goes, but as far as accuracy is concerned, a little disappointing for sure. I was hoping for better, and I've definitely seen better from other people testing these slugs through their shotguns. Different shotguns are going to prefer different slugs. Maybe if we threw a different choke in that gun, we might see a little bit different results, but clearly we're just kind of all over the place. They're not very consistent, and more than likely they're probably trying to push them just too fast for what they need to be pushed. I mean, from my gun, if we're seeing high 1800s on average, that's moving on out for a tiny little 1/4 ounce piece of lead. So it definitely could be kicking them and making them a little squirrely. So definitely some mixed results today, and it just kind of confirms that as of right now, I probably still wouldn't deer hunt with these slugs, at least not in my setup. And with that kind of penetration, yeah, it's enough to kill a deer. I know there's been a ton of deer taken with these slugs over the years, so it can absolutely do it. It's just, can it reliably and consistently do it and give you a little bit of margin for error? That still remains to be seen. And for me, I just wouldn't completely trust them yet. It wasn't fantastic for penetration, and those slugs were right on the ragged edge of just completely coming apart anyway. So if you hit a little bit of bone, that might legitimately be what happens, is they kind of blow themselves to pieces, and that's what you get, is a very long track job. So I guess you can leave your thoughts down below. Is this about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you tested any of these 3-inch 1/4 ounce Super X slugs? And if so, what kind of results have you seen from them? Is this a combo that you would hunt with? Would you like to see them a little more accurate? Is that enough penetration for you? Obviously 410 isn't the ultimate deer hunting round or anything like that by any means, but have you done it, and what has your experience been if you've used this combination? And maybe what other 410 slug type of testing do you want to see me do? Let me know all that down below. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, you have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All that information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.